On this edition of Independent Sources, Foodworks, an incubator kitchen that's leveling the playing field for underrepresented entrepreneurs to enter the food sector. And License to Chill, ice cream inspired by an entrepreneur's Indian heritage. The details coming up.
Independent Sources, your window to the city's ethnic and immigrant communities. Here's your host, Garry Pierre-Pierre.
New York City is a hotbed for women entrepreneurs, so much so that the Dell Women Entrepreneurship Cities Index ranks the city first among 25 others for its ability to attract and support high-potential female-led businesses. One sector where women are really making an impact is that of ethnic food. We'll meet one of those entrepreneurs this week. But first, we'll visit Pilotworks, an incubator kitchen based in Brooklyn that's helping these upstart startups. Pilotworks Director of Culinary Operations, Ned Klein, tells us more about the facility in his own words.
There are really high barriers to entry in the food industry, whether it's taking on a lease and that commitment, or purchasing equipment for production, or navigating the regulatory landscape. And so our founders saw an opportunity to break those down and make the food industry accessible for any entrepreneur that has that hustle and spirit. We started here in Brooklyn with one location. Now we have 6 nationwide. And then additionally, we've expanded our offering, notably in our mentorship programs. In addition to providing shared kitchen space and office co-working space, we offer networking opportunities and individually tailored mentorship for all kinds of businesses. And that can take the form of legal advice or technical training as it pertains to production scaling, branding assistance, or even getting a product ready to market. So here in Brooklyn, we have 120 members overall, and we see traffic 24 hours a day. A lot of people that are just getting started are working kind of at the fringes of the day, at the beginning and the end, because maybe they're going home to another job. We have businesses that are a little more developed that are working typical business hours, and we see really high traffic during those times. And then we have bakers and other consumer packaged goods producers that work overnight. So there's inspiration in here all hours of the day. Members can book by hour, and we charge per hour. So generally they're looking at between 3-hour and in some cases 12-hour chunks of time that they need to complete their run. It allows them to take advantage of incredible efficiencies in their operations. A lot of small business owners take on a lease for a space that they may only be using for 6-8 hours a day. And that's a tremendous cost burden on them. So if they can come into our space, do a production run in 6 hours, they're paying for that and nothing else. More than half of the businesses that come into Pilotworks are female and minority owned. It's just really anyone that has the spirit and the desire. We make it easy for them to come in and get started. For example, we have Satvika, which is a husband and wife duo that produces vegetarian Indian cuisine, and they're exploring different concepts, whether it's in supermarkets or delivery. I could talk about Hungry Bird, which is a Nordic-inspired gluten-free crisp. And we have a couple women that have taken that concept and brought it here to the United States. B-Tarts is a company that is bringing it's a maple butter tart, which is a Canadian staple in their confection world, to the US. And they can start with us even before they have a product. They can join our Launchpad program with just the desire to start a food business, no concrete product, and they can grow all the way through Pilotworks into our distribution program once they have a product. We're just breaking down all the barriers for anyone that wants to start a food business, and I think those barriers traditionally have disproportionately impacted women and minorities, and so we're kicking down the walls, and anyone that is ready, or anyone that's willing to put in the work can succeed in growing their food business. And so we're just creating the place and the support for them to do that.
With me in studio to talk about her experience at Pilotworks and studying her small batch artisanal ice cream business, Malai is Pooja Bavishi. Welcome, Pooja.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
All right. So let's pick up to the last point that the gentleman made here in the piece,
Sure.
saying that anyone can succeed. How true is that?
Anyone who has this concept and has a desire to be in a food business wants to actually like pursue their passions. Absolutely. Like this is what that Pilotworks is providing. I'm coming from a professional food background. I didn't go to culinary school. I didn't work in kitchens before. And so this was an opportunity for me to produce commercially without having those overhead costs right at the beginning that would have killed the business. Mm-hmm. That being said, I remember my very first shift at the kitchen, and I had never seen such a big pot before. I had never seen such like a range of stoves and things like that. And I had a complete breakdown. And Pilotworks even offers that support. So, you know, the kitchen manager came over and like spoke to me and like explained how to create efficiencies in the kitchen, because I'm coming from being a home cook and just having this desire and passion to do something, to going to a big space and trying to take that from a hobby to a career.
You went to business school. What got you interested in going into the food business, and particularly Malai? What's behind it? What is the thought behind Malai?
Yeah, well, I always loved making desserts. That was something since I was a child. I figured out pretty early that desserts make people happy, especially if you create them yourself. And so I always was researching recipes and seeing how food fit together, trying out new things, inviting people over to test. So like my closest family and friends always knew that at some point I would want to have my own dessert business. I just didn't have a concept. And so I was in business school at NYU, and I was in my second to last semester, and kind of things happened serendipitously where I was holding a Friendsgiving for my friends, and I was making the desserts, of course. That's what I did. And for the first time, I kind of like just spotted my ice cream maker to the side and decided to make some ice cream to go along with it. And because it was so last minute, I put together that base and looked at like the spice cabinet, which my mom stocked for me, and just grabbed these spices that were so familiar to me and just flavor them the way I would flavor an Indian dish, flavor these ice cream bases. And ice cream has a very, very blank palate. So whatever like flavor you give it, whatever spices or whatever you put in it, is the flavor that it's going to take on. Mm-hmm. So I made this ice cream, and my friends, for the first time, my friends had always been supportive of my desserts, but for the first time they said that they had never had something like this before, that they would buy this. Okay. And so that kind of prompted this idea that maybe this is my concept. I was going into my last semester, and so I started, again, not coming from a food background, I started researching courses on like how to take a hobby into a career, how to kind of launch into a food business. And I went to Penn State, where they had this like week-long ice cream course where you find out the science of commercial ice cream.
So you always knew that ice cream was where you wanted to go?
No, that's what I'm saying, that it was only at that dinner that I figured that out. Okay. But then I tried to like get as many resources as possible to make sure that I was equipped with all the knowledge possible for ice cream making.
Okay. Tell us about the flavors here you have.
So we do a lot of Indian-inspired flavor. So I'm not at all, I'm very much utilizing that first initial ice cream making experience that I had. And so we do twists on Indian classics. So instead of a rose ice cream, which is very common in Indian desserts, we're doing rose with cinnamon roasted almonds. Golden turmeric is like the exact same recipe that my mom used to give me in milk when I was sick. And so there's that. That's a little bit on that end of, that's very trendy. We have like coffee and cardamom for our Turkish coffee. Masala chai, which is exactly how I make my chai in the morning, things like that. Okay,
excellent. Going back to Pilotworks, how have they been able to move you along from where, you know, you had this crazy idea and now you're at Whole Foods and other large supermarkets in the area? So talk to us a little bit more about Pilotworks.
Yeah, I mean, I think that they are very cognizant of the fact that they know that people are going to graduate out of their program, and they celebrate that. Mm-hmm. And so when I started at Pilotworks, it was just me. I was making very small batch for once-a-week fairs and markets in New York, and that grew very quickly because Pilotworks, along with the shared kitchen space that they offer, which in and of itself is a huge resource to New York-based food entrepreneurs. They offer mentorship, so I would get advice on food photography, social media, to distribution and getting contacts of buyers. You know, like they were very, very forthcoming with the information that they had, which allowed this business to grow. You know, like I was able to get these contacts very early on and get this advice very early on that I would not even know to go to if I didn't have that resource available to me. And so, yeah, they even have a distribution program now. So
yeah, that's interesting because that's the toughest nut to crack for
a lot of food businesses. Yeah. Exactly. So just to support Pilotworks-based food businesses, they started this distribution program. They've now taken on a lot of small businesses in the area, but they service all of the specialty food stores in the New York City area, which is really, like, it's a great foot in the door for brands like mine.
It appears empirically, as well as anecdotally, that women, particularly ethnic women, are playing a major role in this sort of like food business. Why do you think that's the case? What's happening that more women are getting involved in this business?
I think that places like Pilotworks make it possible for women to, and everyone, to be able to launch this idea that they had and make it into a reality, into a career. Speaking just personally, I've noticed like a renaissance in like South Asian-based food businesses. I think that there's also this desire to bring this culture back, make sure that as many audiences as possible get to taste a little bit of what you grew up with. Which is really interesting about Malai that I've always found is the feedback that we get is that people from very different ethnic backgrounds from me say that it tastes very nostalgic and very familiar. And like food more than anything else is able to do that. It's really able to connect people. And so it's really fascinating to see all of these different ethnicities coming in and putting their spin on food and still being able to connect to all of these different people. And New York is the place to do that.
Okay. So now, and how many chains are you? Supermarket?
We're in Whole Foods is the biggest chain.
The biggest
Yeah,
one.
But we're in a bunch of different specialty food stores in New York City.
And what's the next plan? Where do you want to go?
Yeah, so we distribute nationwide right now for direct to consumer, so we're able to sell online. But our big goal is to be a globally recognized brand. You know, we were just talking about like the Indian diaspora and how there's so many audiences that are really excited about these products, and so we.
But I think the Indian food has crossed over into the mainstream.
Absolutely.
So there's 100%. A market for.
Yeah, exactly,
everyone.
Right. And so we're building out our first store in Cobble Hill in Brooklyn, and then we'll see from there. The 5-year plan is to be a globally recognized brand.
How long have you been doing this, by the way? I don't think I asked you that question.
We just hit our 3-year mark.
Okay. Excellent.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, let's celebrate. Let's have some ice cream.
Yes, absolutely.
Which one should I try first?
So our most popular is this one, the rose with cinnamon roasted almonds. Let me scoop some for you.
All right. Looks good.
Sorry.
Yes.
Got some. Let me know what you think. Yeah.
Deep.
And that's the turmeric.
Wow. Very layered flavor.
Yeah.
So what does Malai mean?
It figuratively means cream of the crop in a North Indian language, yeah.
And the turmeric?
Well, it's a little melting, so
okay.
I don't want to get it all over you as it does stain.
It's good for you, turmeric.
It is.
Thank you. This
Thank
is good.
you.
Malai's 21 flavors of ice cream are available on the website malai.co. You can find out more about Pilotworks and the programs they offer by visiting their website, pilotworks.com. When we come back, we'll learn more about this trend of women taking the lead in the ethnic food sector. Thanks for staying tuned. Earlier, we saw how the incubator kitchen Pilotworks was helping some entrepreneurs mold passions into product. Now we want to turn our attention to look at the food sector in general and how women are playing a bigger role. Assistant Professor Claire Stewart is a faculty member in the Hospitality Management Department at New York City College of Technology, City Tech. Welcome, Professor Stewart.
Thank you for having me.
So what's behind this change, if you will, in leadership in the kitchen, where we see more and more women are playing a bigger and bigger role?
I think that what's happening with women is probably an exaggerated version of what's happening with millennials in general, is that I think many young people in particular are looking for ways of making money as entrepreneurs or as business owners, as independent people rather than employees. Mm-hmm. And women are probably more motivated to do that if they're mothers or if they don't fit traditional molds of somebody who could get a bank loan to open a business, or even to be able to get childcare, or maybe don't have an educational portfolio that would enable them to get started with it in a different way. So I think that having a little startup is a way to get started immediately, to make money right away.
Why the food industry?
I think because, especially in New York City, there's enough for everybody to go around. It's almost like the entertainment business in New York City or Broadway. There's so many people to feed, and there's such a thriving atmosphere of people who are willing to try new things and taste new things. And we're just teaming with so many different kinds of people that I think that any kind of wild idea.
The ethnic diversity?
The ethnic diversity, somebody somewhere else is willing to try your particular food that you might have to offer.
When did this trend begin? What sort of like prompted this to happen?
I'm not sure that, I mean, I think it's a trend, but I think it's become more and more popular probably in the last 5 years, but I also think it's an ongoing trend. It's always been so-called melting pot, okay. But I think a lot of stuff has opened up clearly because of the internet, because of social media, because of food trucks. The old model of having to have a restaurant to feed people is so inaccessible for so many people that just, I would say, the food truck
Are you seeing an uptick on the women-owned food trucks as well?
You know, that's a good question. I don't have any statistics on that, but it would be interesting to find out. I would not be surprised if it was. Mm-hmm.
So what does this mean for the food sector?
I think that it means that if you do have a freestanding restaurant, you have to work that much harder to give the public something that a small place that doesn't have a lot of overhead, has more freedom, might be able to give the customer a different kind of experience that maybe if you have a brick and mortar place with a high payroll and you're paying insurance and you have all these things that you need to take care of, you might be less willing to take risks. Whereas if your risk is just your idea, it doesn't work, you could try again. You could change your food truck, you could try a cart, you could try something else. You could have a virtual business. Mm-hmm.
So you teach management as well, yes, at City Tech. What are some of the major challenges that people face in going to the food business? Well, let me be a little bit more clear. The restaurant business, because the food business is broad.
You're right. Yeah, that's a good point. I would say one challenge is that because even if it's a small bank loan or a small startup or just a food truck, there's a significant amount of money that needs to be invested in that. And I feel that sometimes people think just because they know how to make something, they make great salsa, that doesn't mean that you know how to market it or that you know how to prepare it in a sanitary way without making people sick. Do you understand about the licensing and the insurance? And there's so many things that go into it that I feel like one of the challenges that anybody that wants to do that kind of work needs to educate themselves or get an education in terms of how to do it the right way.
Is the entrance of more women creating some kind of conflict within the sort of restaurant industry?
I don't think so. I tell you, I worked in restaurants, in New York restaurants 30 years ago, and very often I was the only woman in the kitchen. And I can't say it was always a terrific experience, but I also feel that in my experience, despite having some pretty hairy episodes, if you can do the work, you get accepted.
No, it's interesting because in our homes, moms,
Yes,
grandma,
yeah.
The cooks. I mean,
Right.
we all love their cooking, but in a restaurant business, it's the other way around. Why is that?
Well, because traditionally, I mean, the boss makes more money, and traditionally, unfortunately, the man, if there was a position that paid more, it was going to go to a male, not a female. And statistically, they've shown that there's many, many women working in 4-star restaurants across the country, but very few that make it to executive chef because of the time that gets put in. So when women graduate from culinary school, they're in their early 20s and they're hungry and they're young and they can do the work of working 60, 70 hours a week. They can do that right along with the men, but should that woman want to have a baby, it starts to drop off, because then maybe if you can work it out that you can have the baby, can you still feel successful as a mother and work 60, 70 hours a week? So there's a steep drop off of women who are line cooks or women who are working in restaurants, nice restaurants, as to the women who are actually executive chefs.
And is a paradigm shifting where now women are getting equal pay in the kitchen as men?
I would hesitate to answer that because I don't know that I could speak for the business as a whole, but I think it's probably a reflection.
But you were saying earlier, which is true, that in a lot of professions, if not all of them, men usually get paid more.
Right.
And so that's why you had more men in the kitchen running it. But now that women are coming in, are they getting anything quite the level of male chefs?
I think so. I think with the bigger businesses and the respectable businesses, I think, and same with the treatment of women, is much as driven by lawsuits. And I think there's a certain amount of behavior and certain corporate responsibility that is enforced just because somebody doesn't want to be sued. And maybe that's not, maybe it's unfortunate that that's how it came about, but that's how it came about.
Okay. Let's switch gear a little bit and talk about Pilotworks in Brooklyn. What they do is they help entrepreneurs get the product out into the market. Now, supermarkets receptive to these sort of like artisanal food and in many cases healthier food. Are you seeing a shift towards them opening up their shelves to these types of products?
Yes, I think they are. I think they are, but going back to one of your original questions, is they are as long as they have an understanding that it was prepared safely and in a sanitary fashion, and that even if it's an artisan salsa or something special that was made in small batches, a business owner or even any person, a person feeding their family, just wants to make sure that it was made correctly and in a way that nobody's going to get sick. So I think if you have a big business, you have deep pockets, and you're going to be extra careful to make sure that there's rigorous legislation going behind making sure that the things that end up on your shelf are safe.
A couple of weeks ago, the Wall Street Journal wrote an article about the food industry and its challenges it's having because people's palates are changing and they want different stuff. When are we going to see that translate into more product into the shelves? Because right now, the big food companies dominate. And so how does a woman entrepreneur penetrate these shelves? It's
you have to have something new. And I don't know when we're going to run out of new things, but every time I go to the grocery store, even I'm surprised you go to Trader Joe's and there's something there that I would have considered very exotic just a year ago.
For instance?
And there it is. Nutritional yeast is used a lot in hydrating food and drying food. And there it is right next to the jelly at Trader Joe's.
Why are people more open now? What do you think?
I think that has a lot to do with the internet, because you see, if you scroll through your Facebook page or whatever your social media is, all the recipes come up. And then you see the pictures, oh, that looks interesting. And then you look through the recipes and you say, oh, I don't have nutritional yeast. Where would I get that? But then, of course, your phone is going to, the next thing that's going to pop up is an ad for nutritional yeast.
So technology is everywhere, huh?
I think that drives a lot of it, and it makes us more exposed to more and more. It's harder to become unusual. It's harder to have something unusual. So I think there's an obvious shift to food from different countries because we're still unearthing different fruits and vegetables and things that we haven't seen yet.
All right. Thanks for a great conversation, Professor Claire Stewart.
Well, thank you for having me.
That's our show. Thanks for staying tuned. Join us next time when we'll take a look at the city's changing affordable housing landscape. Till then, be independent-minded.